Good morning. Again, we want to take time to share with you the entering in of the kingdom. And we've talked in the last 3 lessons about different aspects of this. This morning, I would like to begin to look at some spiritual parallels of the birth. We talked in the last time together about the stress upon the mother and the child, and the stress on the child of coming down the birth canal, putting pressure on the head, or the battle in the mind. But we also want to talk about what, after the child comes out, what is going on. It's very important for us to catch this. So, the perspective of the child, and let's go there in the slide presentation that we're looking at. The perspective of the child. In the natural, the baby has been living in water up to this time. What should be happening in the spiritual child, whether it be an individual or in a local assembly, it should be immersed in the Word up until this time. It is essential in the shaping and forming of a child, in the spiritual realities, that the Word be what it is immersed in. And often we get so busy with everything else, and we get them so busy that they do not know the Word of God. They do not understand the Word of God. The first thing that is important is that they be immersed in the Word, and through the umbilical cord, the food comes, but the context in which that child lives is an equation, or is equated with the Word of God. So it's important that they catch that. So let's move on. Again, all we're doing in this is giving you some spiritual parallels to think about and to take back to Father and say, Father, is Dr. Bill right, or is he right off his nut? Okay? So the perspective of the child, the natural, the water breaking does the water breaks doing 2 things. Number 1, the current knowledge of the Word seems to disappear. In other words, in getting them ready, as it were, to live in the realm of the Spirit, there is a flowing out of the Word. But the Word flowing out, or the water breaking, washes and cleanses and cleans the birth canal, so that all infection is washed out in preparation for the child, the new life coming down. The changing the atmosphere, making the environment uncomfortable for the baby, is one of the things that happens when the water breaks. In the spiritual, this changes the atmosphere that the newly formed spirit child lives in. It could be that the knowledge that has been comfortable seems to vanish. And then we talked about the birthing of the cleansing of the birth canal in the natural. There is a cleansing of the spiritual birth canal. And that is whatever pressures God is going to bring to bear to bring them into a new realm. Any infection in those is washed away and cleansed. Thirdly, lubricating the birth canal. There's enough spirit in the spirit. There's enough spiritual understanding to make the coming into the new realm a little easier, and that's essential. It's essential. All of this is still part of that birthing process. Then we come to number 3. Okay? The head is engaged or becomes locked in position preparatory to descending the birth canal. Spiritually, God causes our mind to become locked in position or fixed, just as Jesus was fixed to go to Jerusalem. Number 4, labor pains begin to cause the mother to push the baby out of the known into the unknown. Boy, I wish we could catch this. Remember, labor pains are experienced by apostolic ministry and they begin to push, as it were. This, I believe, is done in prayer. Paul travailed again in birth in prayer until Christ was completely and permanently formed in the Galatians. That was his focus. That was his desire. That's what he wanted to see happen. And I believe by the grace of God, there's a sense in which that did happen. Now, remember, we're looking at the perspective of the child. In the natural, pressure, phenomenal pressure comes on the head, causing it to be pressured out of shape, which lasts for a short while after the child's emerged from the womb. I'll never forget our last two children. I delivered them at home, and I got to see this process firsthand. Now, the eyes of love see that child as beautiful, but when it first comes out, it's misshapen. The head's misshapen because of the pressure. That's why none of the plates in the bone plates are rigid. Otherwise, the head would break. But they slip and move so that the child can be brought forth. And there's a flexibility in the thinking, in the mind, in the head, that allows for birth and pressure. In the spirit, our understanding of spiritual things, a portion of the mind of Christ that's been forming in us comes under pressure. It could be intense doubt or fear of error. This presses us into prayer or relationship with God. Remember this, all pressure that comes upon us is really called, and the job of that pressure is to bring us into deeper relationship with the Lord. The enemy would misinterpret it, the enemy would try to do a number of things, but really it's there, God allows it, in order that he may bring us into a new realm. Continuing with this perspective of the child, here's what we have. Once the head has pioneered the way, there's only one final push and the whole child pops out. In the spirit, once the battle of the mind or local leadership, who are the head of the local assembly, make it through the battle, it's easier for the rest of the body to follow. See, our problem is we want it to, in the natural, when we're thinking of a local assembly, we want it to be a certain period of time. Remember, in God, time, whether it be days, weeks, months, or years, is always governed by the work needed to be done in that particular day, that particular week, that particular month, that particular year. And if you're dealing with a year, there has to be the going through the 4 seasons spiritually. We catch these things and we won't get so upset with time. Time will not be our restraint anymore. Now, catch this memory. Catch this. These principles apply first to an individual Christian, and then in the development of a local assembly. If I understand it in the natural Christian realm, or in the natural realm, I'll begin to at least catch a vision of what it means in the spiritual realm. Remember, the church was conceived when Jesus called the 12 disciples. It was born again on the day of Pentecost. And that's the ability to speak the ability to speak in tongues is not being born again. I say that because I came out of a denomination that did not believe you were saved until you spoke in tongues. And yet the character of Jesus in a number of these, who could speak in tongues like a train barreling down the track, the nature of Jesus was not there. Okay? And I want us to focus on the nature, not on the giftings. This is so, so important. Let me go back in this. The church was conceived when Jesus called the 12. I'd like to go back a bit because actually the church was conceived when Jesus was born. He was the first cell, as it were, in the womb. And he had to develop within the womb and then gather other cells to him. But the 12 disciples were the first members, as it were, of the church. The church was functioning 3.5 years before the day of Pentecost. We just let that one sink in. I want us to just stop here, and as we do these things, we'll release them every couple of days as we have them ready. And the reason we do this and make these short things is so that you can think on these things. Search the scriptures and see if these things be so. Because these are not thoughts that have been normally out there. Being born again is being birthed. Oops. Here we go. Is being birthed into another realm. There it is. Being born again is being birthed into another realm. We're going to take some time now and give you a day or two, as it were, to think on these things. Here we have the contact information again, and let me briefly run through this with you. I can be reached by snail mail at the address there on your screen, and the cell phone is there if it is needed and you desire to talk to me for some reason. But as I say, please use that carefully. You can also go to the website at drwmjhurst.com. There is product available there. There is some videos there, teaching and the availability of the product. There's also a place there where you can hit the donate button and help us continue in this ministry. Then if you desire an answer to a question, my preference is that you send me an email, and because in the email I won't forget any portion of the question, and I have developed a way of answering emails, dreams, and visions, of writing right in the body of what you send me the answers so I don't miss a thing. This is Dr. William J. Hurst of Dr. William J. Hurst Ministries, teaching all nations the practical Word of God and mentoring the hungry, one student at a time. May God bless you is the cry of our heart.